What's up, guys? It's your girl Penny here, and today we are talking about how I'm a convicted felon. So I wanted to come and make this video mostly for myself so that I'd be able to kind of tap back into how I was feeling whenever I first got convicted and going through the first couple of weeks and first couple of months and whatever, and seeing if my feelings at all change regarding the situation, and if I'm able to get to a place of being proud of my conviction in a sense, or if that feeling of shame and embarrassment remains. Before we get all into the whole shebang, we first are going to talk about what happened that led to me being a convicted felon, and then we'll talk about my sentencing, and then we'll get into how I feel. So I made a video about it, which I will put up here, but I'll give you a little paraphrase. So basically, I was driving home from work and I was going kind of fast because at the time I was dealing with stalkers and things of that nature that were following me home. So I was driving kind of fast trying to elude these stalkers that I had at the time, and I ended up getting pulled over. Whenever I got pulled over, the cop had tried to get me to turn my car off, and when I asked him why did he want me to turn my car off, he called me a bitch, stuck his hand inside my car, tried to hit the push to start button. I peeled off. Called my mom. They threw the strips out to flatten my tires, and that was that. So while I was doing it, of course, it being a felony wasn't crossing my mind, although my mom was telling me hey, that is a felony, you need to pull over, whatever. But the thought of it being a felony really wasn't that big of a deal to me, just given the way that I didn't feel safe and that I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I'm from a very small racist town, and these are two white cops. I'm a young black woman, I'm by myself, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm scared. And the cop has began to get aggressive and do these different things. So what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to sit and wait to become Sandra Bland, or am I supposed to try and save my own life? That was what was going through my head. Save your life or die, ultimately, because that felt like my only decisions. And let me just make it clear that I was not trying to escape because I'm some kind of criminal or anything of that nature. It was literally just because I was afraid. So I wanted to draw more attention to the situation. I needed more eyes, I needed more people, I needed more light on the situation. So that is why I did what I did. Fast forward to my sentencing. I was sentenced to 6 months of house arrest, 24 months of state parole, and mental health counseling. Now, my sentencing really gets me because I'm made to look like this crazy lady who, thought she was being followed and thought she was in a dangerous situation and thought that the police were trying to hurt her and it was just a general traffic stop. But none of the above is true. If it was just a general traffic stop, I've been pulled over many times before. I've never ever taken the police on a high-speed chase. Why is no one thinking, what happened in this situation that she decided to pull off? I didn't know what the police were saying. I didn't know what their story was up until a few days ago whenever I was actually, convicted of the crime. I had no idea what the police were saying. So I was basically just going off of what I knew happened, but I knew that they were not telling the truth. So I had to wait all the way until I got up to sentencing to find out that the police were saying that I never pulled over at all, which is not true. I pulled over, the cop became aggressive, I pulled off. Very much a difference. I'm just saying. It was just a messy situation. And then there, right before I started going to court, for this situation. I had some old fines from a pullover many years ago, and I was behind on my payments, so I had like a payment determination. And I remember the magistrate being like, you know, kind of telling me to take some kind of plea deal regarding the case. And not even kind of, that's exactly what he said. He said, take a plea deal. And I was like, thinking to myself, well, why would a judge or a magistrate who's not even on the case tell me to take a plea deal? Like, it basically just already let me know, if you try to go to trial, it's not going to go well. And I'm from a very small town. Everybody knows everybody. So I already kind of knew it wasn't going to go well. But once the magistrate had told me, like, just to take a plea deal, I knew, okay, you're going to be defeated if you go to court. That's basically just what it is. So given all of the factors of like the magistrate telling me to take a plea deal, the cops definitely have to be lying about what happened that night. That whole night, you know, while I was in jail and everything, I just remember them laughing and giggling and, you know, thinking it was just some kind of joke when I was genuinely scared for my life. Like, I'm a young Black woman. Black people are brutally killed by the police for way less, and you're laughing like this is some kind of joke. Like, this is not funny to me. It's not funny. So just given the whole nature of the situation, I didn't trust any of the lawyers in my area to represent me. I thought about outsourcing, like, you know, maybe further down the state of Pennsylvania or going into the state of West Virginia, but then I decided like against that. I decided that I would just go into court representing myself and hope for the best. And I did not tell anyone that I didn't have a lawyer because I didn't want anybody to tell me how stupid it was or whatever, because I already knew that whenever the opportunity for a plea deal came, I was going to take it. Basically, here's what I did. Here's what I did. I went to court the first time and I didn't have a lawyer, like I said, and the judge asked me if I wanted to get representation or try to get like a public defender, and I said yes, so I got it postponed because I wasn't ready at that time. As soon as I walked in and he started reading my charges, I was like, whoa, what have I gotten myself into? So I got it postponed by saying that I was going to get an attorney, even though I knew that I was not going to get an attorney. When the second time came to go to court, he, you know, mentioned like, hey, you postponed it to get a lawyer, you still don't have one, would you like to continue? I said yes, I would like to continue, and he gave me two options. The first option was to state my case and then the cops state their case and we take it from there. And then the second choice was to accept a plea deal. I decided that I was going to take a plea deal, and I was offered my sentencing of 6 months of house arrest, 24 months parole, and mental health counseling. I accepted, the judge that was on the case accepted, and then I had to go to like official sentencing. So whenever you first get your plea deal, it's like, it's contingent, the word that I want to use, but I don't know if that's the word I want to use, but basically it's subject to change. So the judge, or the district attorney rather, does not have to accept the plea deal. So, you know, things could change. And then not only that, you could also change your mind and decide, hey, I want to have a trial and, you know, say whatever with the plea deal. So a lot could still change on the way up to sentencing. All the way up to sentencing, things can change. So whenever I went to sentencing, the agreement with a plea deal is that you will agree to plead guilty in exchange for lesser charges. Now, whenever I first was charged, I was looking at 3 felonies and a misdemeanor. By the time I got to sentencing, I had only 1 felony and 1 misdemeanor, 2 summary offenses. So my charges were definitely lessened a lot. And I could have potentially gone to jail for up to 7 years for what it was that I did. So I'll say I got a pretty sweet deal. That's what I'll say. I'll take it, right? I'll take the deal over anything. That is how I went about my situation and how I ended up getting a plea deal and everything without a lawyer. And a pretty sweet deal at that, right? But now that I've been sentenced and I'm serving my sentence, I'm starting to really feel the effects of being a convicted felon. You know, like before I was sentenced, it wasn't that big of a deal to me. I was like, okay, I'm going to be a convicted felon, whatever. But now that I've been sentenced, it's a very nerve-wracking, embarrassing, shameful kind of process. I mean, even, you know, applying for jobs, I will have to explain these charges whenever I experience background checks and, you know, looking for apartments and stuff like that. I will have to explain why I'm a convicted felon, and just so much explaining to do in the world now that I'm a convicted felon. Although I was not convicted of any violent crimes, any theft, or, you know, anything like drugs or anything like that, still and yet I'm a convicted felon. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that it's kind of like shameful and embarrassing in a way, because I never saw that for myself. I try my best to stay out of trouble. I try my best to do what's right and to always take the right path, even whenever I don't really know what I'm doing. And to be put in a situation where I feel like I did do what was right, but, you know, ultimately it was wrong, is a very confusing place to be. It's a very frustrating place to be, because the system is definitely not designed for people to win. It's not designed for people to actually receive justice. It's not designed really to do anything good at all. At least in my experience, you know, it's definitely a fucked up thing. You know, and just experiencing all of that, I realized that whenever people say that the system is not designed for you to win, or it's not set up in a way to where people can really truly defend themselves and the truth be revealed and true actual justice be served, you know, I can feel that and I can relate to that. But the most important lesson that I feel like I pulled from this was that life can really be taken from you at any moment, and even more so whenever you are Black, literally just because of the color of your skin. You know, if I was white, things probably wouldn't have gone that way. You know, they probably wouldn't have asked me to turn my car off, or called me a bitch, or tried to stick his hand in my car and turn my car off. And that's just a guess. That's not, you know, factual. Obviously, I have nothing to actually back that up. That's just how I feel. I feel like I was an easy target. I was young, Black, alone by myself out in the middle of the night, even though I was coming from work, and I just feel like I just had a target on my back just because. And, you know, if it was a regular traffic stop, I would have just sat there and dealt with getting a speeding ticket or whatever. But something just didn't feel right in that situation. And I immediately felt connected to the Black community, you know, thinking about people like Sandra Bland and George Floyd and all the other names of people who were, you know, murdered by the police for nothing. I just immediately felt so connected to them, and, you know, that fear that they felt whenever their lives were taken, especially by people who are supposed to protect. It was very disheartening, very upsetting, and it definitely could make you lose faith in the system. But the only reason that I haven't completely lost faith is because there was a cop there who told the cop who had a gun out pointed at my head, don't pull the trigger. And that's literally why I'm living right now. So I didn't completely lose faith. There are definitely some good cops out there, but the bad ones definitely make it hard for them. Right now, yeah, I just feel a mix of emotions. I feel shame, I feel embarrassment, I feel upset, I feel a little bit angry. I feel everything all at once, like happy to still be alive, and then everything else I'm upset about. Mostly because I feel like I just wish I was never in the situation at all. And then, you know, with the whole thing of being on state parole, you know, someone else is in charge of your freedom. So at any given moment, I could be put behind bars if I literally just blink the wrong way. If I make one wrong move, there's really no room for me to make any mistakes, because that equals me going into a jail cell. Is very nerve-wracking. Every move that you make, you kind of have to think 12 times about it, just to be sure that your freedom is intact. So, you know, that is definitely very disheartening and upsetting to deal with. So, you know, the biggest lesson of all is definitely that freedom is a privilege. It's not something that you have to be given, and it can be taken from you at any moment, regardless if you're on state parole or not, you know. And because I never really had any like major run-ins with the police or anything like that, or had my freedom in jeopardy really in any way, shape, or form, I don't feel like I really thought about it that much, how, you know, at any given moment your freedom could just be snatched from you. I definitely never really thought about it until I was in that situation. And now I realize, like, hey, your choices matter, your decisions matter, the things that you do matter. Every little thing that you do is going to affect you for the rest of your life. So think carefully. Don't just, you know, go and do things based off of emotion, or just because you feel like, or just because you feel like you're a grown up and you can do whatever you want, because that's not true. There are consequences to your actions, which is part of the reason that I also took a plea deal, was because I understand that I did do something wrong. So I understand some type of conviction. I just wanted the least amount of conviction that I could receive. And for anybody wondering why I did not use ARD, I already used my ARD on a weed charge several years ago. So that is why. But yeah, so the thing that is getting me through and helping me to realize that this is not a death sentence for me, and this is going to sound crazy, but it's Martha Stewart. That's who it is. She's a convicted felon, and she's still doing the damn thing. And ultimately, I don't believe that I was like created to be an employee for the rest of my life, or a renter for the rest of my life, or living such a mediocre, minimal life for the rest of my life. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to be a content creator. I've always wanted to be a homeowner. I've always wanted to do things my own way, my own time, you know, just the way that I want to do them. Like, I have a vision of a life in my head that I can still get to and achieve. And I know that because Martha Stewart is doing it. She's not the only convicted felon out there, but she's the first one that comes to my mind. So if she's ever, you know, feeling any type of shame about her situation, if she would ever just happen to come across this on some rainy day, don't, because you're pulling me through and being my motivation and my light in the darkness, right? I see that and I'm like, yes, I can still achieve, I can still do, I can still go, I can still be, I can still do these things. So yeah, you know, everything literally does happen for a reason. I'm sure she didn't think that, but everything does happen for a reason. But ultimately, See, me personally, I know a lot of convicted felons, so I don't feel like I ever really had like a negative connotation towards convicted felons, because I know that shit happens, and I know that, hey, if I fuck with you, I fuck with you, convicted felon or not, right? But I feel like a lot of people do have a negative connotation whenever it comes to convicted felons. And me just being me, like, I'm just a chill, laid back person, and knowing that I can't stop people from judging me from that decision, whether they know the story, don't know the story, you know, whatever, is like crazy to me that you can immediately be written off for one tiny little mistake for the rest of your life. That's crazy to me. You're automatically deemed like untrustworthy or a criminal or whatever, and like shit just happens, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. But another big lesson that I learned is not to judge people, because it could easily be you. You know, I never saw that for myself. If I had a crystal ball, I promise you it wouldn't have been in there. I never, ever, ever saw that for myself. I never thought that I would be a convicted felon. I never thought that I would be in any type of trouble with the police whatsoever. And, you know, that just wasn't the case. So don't judge, because it can easily be you. So I've only been a convicted felon for about 11 days now. I was sentenced on November 17th, 2023. Right now it is November 28th. So yeah, it's been about 11 days. So I'm still very much in the thick of it. I'm getting ready to be on house arrest in like 5 or 6 days. And I just wanted to like document my experience. I completely plan on documenting my house arrest experience and everything else that I go through concerning this legal situation, you know, maybe to help somebody else on their journey, or, you know, whatever the case may be. It could easily just be for myself, but that's my plan. So right now I definitely feel disheartened, embarrassed, shameful, scared, because I don't know how it's going to affect my future, really. And even whenever I was getting sentenced, the judge looked at me and she was like, you know, you're young. How old are you? I was like 25. She's like, you know, being a convicted felon, like, it's going to affect you for the rest of your life. And in that moment, I was just like, oh shit, like, yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. So definitely scared in that aspect of things, scared to go to jail, scared that I'll violate in some crazy way and end up in a jail cell. So scared is definitely a great word to describe how I'm feeling. But hopefully over the course of the next couple of months and years and weeks, I can find a way to be proud of my situation, and hopefully I can wear my bracelet with pride, but not because I'm proud of what I did, but because I would like to be proud of myself, good or bad, in anything that I do. And I don't want to be ashamed of me, my decisions, or who I am. I just want to own it, do it, thrive no matter what. And so hopefully I can get to a place where I'm proud of who I am and proud of what I've been through and proud of my testimony. But I think that's everything that I have to say for today. This is just like a little documentary for self. If you got something out of it, don't be afraid to let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can keep up with me on the journey, because it's going to be a long one. But that's all I got, so I'll catch up with you guys in the next one.